So in the last class, we were handling two verses, that is verse number 12 and verse number 13. We also got introduced to the most important philosophy or the concept of Atma Tattva, which we got introduced. So in verse number 12, Krishna is telling that Atma is eternal, that is Nitya. Atma is Nitya, eternal, ever present. So Krishna is referring to the body which is undergoing four stages of experience: childhood, boyhood or girlhood, that is what, and the youth as well as the old age. The body undergoes these changes, but the Atma never undergoes any of these changes. So what is Krishna trying to say is, in verse number 13, it is Nirvikaraha. So one is saying this Atma is ever present. So he is referring to himself, Arjuna and all the others in verse number 12 as Atma, and he connects that, says we were all there earlier. It is not that we were not there, we were there. And it is not that we will not be there, we will be continue to be there. So here he is connecting with the Atma, which is always going to be there. Now why? Because the three questions, we will deal with these three questions that Krishna is trying to answer in this chapter number 2 shortly. And in verse number 13, where he is trying to establish that Atma is Nirvikaraka, body undergoes four states of experience like childhood, boyhood or girlhood, youth and old age, but Atma doesn't undergo any change. It cannot be subjected to any modification. Thereby Atma is Nirvikaraha. So he says, so Arjuna, it is the body of Bhishma, Drona and others that will die, but Atma will never die or never perish. It will exist, it will continue to exist always. And that's the point he is trying to say in verse number 12 and 13. And now verse number 14 and 15, Krishna switches over from this Atma to the physical aspect. From Paramatma is now moving to Jivatma in 14 and 15. Why? Now Krishna is going to answer for three questions, probably that might be there in Arjuna's mind. Question number 1, Arjuna, are you worried that you will be killing the Atmas of Dronacharya, Bhishmacharya and others? 2, are you worried that you are going to kill the bodies of Dronacharya, Bhishmacharya and others? Or are you worried this war itself is a dharma? This war itself is a dharma. So the three questions which Krishna is keeping in mind that Arjuna might be asking is he's trying to answer. Now 14 and 15 is going back to the Jivatma. Why? Because in case if Arjuna says, yes Krishna, I am worried about killing the bodies of Bhishmacharya, Dronacharya and others, then I need to handle this part also. Now if you look at Bhagavad Gita, the way Krishna narrates something phenomenal. There is something we say in English, preempt. Preempt. Before it happens, try to handle it. And sometimes you allow it to happen so that you can handle better. Right? So in Bhagavad Gita, in some cases Krishna preempts Arjuna. Even before Arjuna is going to take up this issue, Krishna handles it beforehand. And in some cases, Krishna waits for Arjuna to ask a question so that he can handle it much better. That's the beauty of this entire Bhagavad Gita. So here 14 and 15, is preempting Arjuna's probable answer that I am worried about killing the bodies of Bhishma, Drona, and others. So, in that case, if he is worried, then what should I say now? So, I need to address that also. That's what Krishna thinks about. So, with the introduction of two parts about Atma, that is, Atma is Nitya, eternal, and Atma is Nirvikaraga, which doesn't undergo any modifications. Now, Krishna moves from Paramatma to, that is, Atma to Anatma. Now, what does he tells in verse number 14? Hey, son of Kundi, the instruments of experience, that is, five sense organs, will be in contact with the sense objects, that is, external things, which is nature, from which you could get cold and heat, joy and sorrow. These have the tendency to arrive and depart. So mentally prepare to welcome them. And he concludes verse number 14 by saying, the person with the discriminatory knowledge will not bother about this and prepare to welcome. He is referred to as a Dhiran who has got that knowledge. Now, beautifully said here. We need to understand this. Verse number 14. Every verse in chapter number 2 has got immense knowledge, immense information that we need to know. Let's try to understand verse number 14. The instruments of experience. What are the instruments of experience? The five senses. Because through these five senses only we are able to experience. Experience what? The external world. Let us also make it very clear. The five senses are there only to help us to experience the external world. Or on the other hand, these are the instruments. Okay. They will be always in contact with the sense objects, which I told you refer to as external things. They are always in contact with the sense objects, which is nature. That is how it has been created, Arjuna. You can't change it. Because the very purpose of creating these five senses is to be in constant contact with the sense objectives, which are the external factors. So that is the nature, Arjuna. So because of that contact with the sense objects, you are able to have this duality. What is the duality is mentioning here? Like heat and cold, joy and sorrow. And you know the beauty that, Arjuna, you need to understand, these have the tendency to arrive and depart. They are not there to stay. Yes or no? Please, my dear friends, please look back at your own experiences in life. There were times sorrow things have happened and you were under immense sorrow. But after some time, it has changed and you got into a joyful situation. When summer comes, it is hot, and when winter comes, it is cold. Has anything stayed forever? No. So we need to remember this, my dear friends. Problem is, we experience many things, but we are not using that experience to expand our perception. That's very, very important. See, the perceptions are always going to be there. It is very, very important that we need to expand our perception. So when something sorrowful happens, we are much worried. We are under tremendous pressure. Sometimes we get depressed. When we come out of everything and things settles down and it goes in a good way, then we forget that. And you start enjoying the goodness. And again, when something sorrow happens, we keep our hands on the head and keep saying, oh my God, again. This is the terminology we use. Again, why for me? But where we have not expanded our perception is, yes, last time also the sorrow was there, but it was there for some time and then it went away. Then the joy came in my life. Similarly, this or sorrow will also go and the joy will come back in my life. So, Lord Krishna says they have the tendency to arrive and depart. So, why do you worry about it? It is not going to stay there. Sometimes I know people who worry for joyful situations also. You know why? They are worried. How long, sir? How long I will be in this joyful situation? If suddenly this joyful situation goes off, what will happen? I'll just share a small story here. There was this one guy who was walking in the forest for a long distance. After a long walk, he felt very tired and he sat underneath the tree. He was very thirsty. There was no water nearby. So he started thinking within himself, now, if I get some good water to drink, my thirst will vanish. The moment the thought came, the water was in front of him. He was surprised. Wow, what is this? He drank that water. Thirst was taken care. Now he thought, because he's been walking for quite some time, so he's also feeling hungry. So how he thought, if I get excellent food because I'm feeling hungry, if I get excellent food, how it will be? The moment the thought of the food came, he had varieties of food in front of him. So once again this guy was surprised and he started enjoying the food. And after having the food, fully satisfied, now this guy is totally relaxed. His thirst is taken care, his hunger is taken care. Now he thought, if I have a nice entertainment, if I have a beautiful house or a beautiful place here where I can relax myself, take a good rest, and once again the thought came in and he was in a wonderful house, in a beautiful cozy bed. Wow, what is this happening? Now once he is inside a wonderful house in a cozy bed, then the naughty thought came, wow, if some beautiful girls come and dance and entertain me, how fantastic it will be. And that also happened. After the dance, he felt suddenly, now what is this happening? Is there any booth here? Any demon here? Is it the act of a demon? And is this a demon going to kill me and eat me? And now that worryful thought, unfortunately, the demon came in there the moment the thought came and killed him and ate him. Now, friends, there are people who could not even in a joyful situation enjoy it completely, having that worry that they may lose it. As I told you in the earlier classes, we have three reasons, we have three problems. One, we are worried until we get what we want. Then we are worried after getting it that we should not lose it. And again, now we are worried when we lose it. My dear friends, from verse number 14, the important thing we need to understand is this. First, the sense objects, since the sensory organ's job is to be in contact with the sense objects which are externally available. And because it is in contact with the sense objects, the duality is going to be there. Cold and heat, sorrow and joy. But the beauty is, none of them are going to be there forever. They arrive and they depart. So what Krishna says is, it is better You be prepared mentally to welcome the sorrowness, welcome the joyfulness, welcome the heat, welcome the cold. Because again we keep worrying when the summer comes, wow, again it is hot, sweating, here is a AC, and in between the when the AC is running, the power goes off, again another halla gulla, right? It's Krishna says a very, very important thing. Keep simple, welcome them, have the mental attitude to welcome them. Why you need to welcome them? First, the very knowledge that they are temporary, and the other important knowledge, sensory organs have this. They are there for primarily to be in contact with the sense objects. So when this is how the nature is, now mentally be prepared to welcome them. And how we conclude chapter verse number 14, a person with a discriminatory knowledge. So who has got this discriminatory knowledge will not bother about the duality and prepare to welcome them. So Krishna is talking about 3 points here: the duality principle, which is temporary, and second is a discriminatory power that everyone should have. And my dear friends, discriminatory power is the biggest strength of humans, and no other creation in this earth has got that much of a discriminatory power. What is this discriminatory power we are talking about? From Satya and Asatya. We are not talking about the discrimination from a salty substance and a sweet substance, from a spicy substance and a sour substance. No. The discriminatory power about Satya and Asatya, which we are going to see now shortly. And the third one, change the attitude to welcome the nature. What is nature? Nature means that which cannot be changed at all. Nature means that which cannot be changed at all. So whenever you are using this word nature, keep this in mind. Sometimes we refer to people, "Arey, that is his nature." So what do you mean? You say that he cannot be changed. He always behaves like that. That is his nature. Dog's nature is to wag the tail when it sees anyone it is familiar with. So can you stop that? Can the dog stop that? Even if you cut the tail, my dear friend, you may not be physically seeing the wagging, but the mental action associated with the wagging of the tail keeps happening, because that's in nature. So he says, don't worry about something that which cannot be changed. So Krishna says, Arjuna, are you worried about the bodies of Bhishma, Drona, that they will become extinct? Anyhow, even if you don't kill them, one day these bodies of these people will become extinct. It's going to happen for you. It's going to happen for me. So Arjuna, please remember, even if you don't kill them, their bodies are going to become extinct one day. So to make Arjuna clear, now he is going to establish this, because as we told, Krishna is handling this topic, Arjuna's problem, in 3 areas. That is, in terms of philosophically, ethically, and status. Now we are seeing philosophically, ethically, and status we will see shortly. So Arjuna, their bodies are anyhow going to perish. If you are worried that their bodies are going to perish, don't worry. You have to fight the war. Are you clear? The verse number 14, please, my dear friends, please understand. Okay, the instruments of experience, that is the 5 sense organs, will be in contact with the sense objects. So don't worry that you are into pleasurable things, or you are sensing this. How do I need to control my sense organs, which we will see down the line in this thing. How to control my mind, Shama, Dhamma, all those things we will see shortly. But let us understand the nature. They are there. These five sense organs are there to be in constant contact with the sense objects. And because of that, you are into this duality of heat or cold, sorrow, joy. And the beauty is they are temporary. They arrive and they depart. So be mentally prepared to welcome them. See, if you are mentally prepared to welcome them, are you going to be worried? Are you going to be sorrowful? The situation may demand a sorrowness, but you will not feel sorrow. As I told you, feeling sorry is something and worrying is something. We started with this extreme example of death, if you remember, where Krishna was saying that your grief is nothing, doesn't deserve to be grieved at all. He is referring to death. So even if the death happens, you will feel sorry for it. Yes, your kith and kin, whomsoever, but you will not keep worrying about it. You know why? Because you know the duality, birth and death. It's how that's a nature. Anything that is born, or anyone who is born, one day has to die, perish. It's a nature. So he concludes, a person with a discriminatory knowledge will not bother about this and is prepared to welcome. So let us take this key message from this verse number 14. Let us learn to welcome that. Krishna says that acceptance leads to extinct of worries. Now this is very, very important. Are we prepared to accept things? But this is the nature which you can't change. I'm going to put in a caution here also, because I don't want you people to take it very blindly. I want a caution here. So acceptance leads to extinct of worries. Now the reason for worries, you know why? It is not the situation. It is our refusal to accept the situation is the cause of the worry. Please understand this. There is a big factor, big truth that we need to understand. It is our refusal to accept the situation. That is the cause for the worry. The situation itself is not the cause for the worry. But once you learn to accept the situation, then you will not be worrying for anything in this world. So acceptance, patience, it's a virtue. Patience, it's a virtue. Now, I told you I'm going to throw a caution here. You might be having a question. I need to preempt that question like what Krishna is doing here. The question can be, so you mean to say accept everything? Even if my child doesn't score good marks, study well, you want me to accept and leave the child like that? If my subordinate doesn't work properly, doesn't achieve the targets, doesn't come to office on time, accept it and get along? If that's what is to be done, then everything will be going honky donkey. There will be chaos. Yes, if you people have got this question in your mind, I really appreciate your listening and your thinking. Now, before acceptance, make an attempt to change. Work on your child. Do what best you can do so that your child changes and starts getting good marks. make an attempt with your subordinates in making them to understand the importance of coming on time or achieving the target, etc., etc. You make that attempt. So attempt is very, very important. So without attempt, rejecting or accepting is a disaster. But now we need to understand certain things are nature, certain things are not nature. Because some people under certain situation, a pressure of the situation, they may behave and they may change later. So making an attempt, so we need to be able to discriminate whether this is a nature or this is something unnatural. Now, from verse 14, except Atma, which is nature, the truth, the five senses in constant contact with the sense objects or others are not nature. My five senses are going to be in contact with the sense object. Yes, but how am I going to respond is my decision. That can be worked on. That can be worked on. As a sugar patient, if someone is not, being strictly told by the doctor not to take sweets, and he passes a sweet stall, and the aroma coming out from the preparation of the sweet tempts him. Now look what has happened. One of the sense organs, that is the nose, the smell, sense of smelling, has already in contact with the sense object, that is that aroma coming out of preparation of the sweet. It happens, it is nature. Now, subsequent to that, what is it you're going to do? Are you going to buy the sweet, knowing pretty well you are not supposed to eat sweet, or you are going to ignore that and keep moving ahead? That is something that can be worked out. But your sense organ, the sense of smelling, getting in contact with the aroma of the sweet making cannot be prevented. That is nature. But subsequent decision that you will be taking can be worked on. There an attempt can be made. That's what we need to understand. So this is very, very important. This is very, very important subject that we need to really, really get into us. It should get soaked in you. So please remember what is nature and what is not nature. Five senses getting in constant touch with the sense object is nature. That cannot be stopped. It's going to happen. Your eye is seeing something. It's going to happen when it is going to be in front of you. But after seeing that, what is it you're going to do? That is something workable. Now let me share this also. There is this guy who is very much stressed of his job. So he went to a Swamiji and asked for a remedy, and the Swamiji said, why can't you do some meditation? Sit in a quiet place, close your eyes, you think of some picture of a god and then start visualizing that picture. Keep sitting there like that. Maybe you start for 5 minutes and slowly increase the time and see that you can reach up to 30 to 45 minutes. It will take care of your stress. So our friend was very happy. It's a very simple thing, right? It doesn't require any great effort. That's what we all think. So he said, wow, sitting in a place, closing an eyes, thinking of a god, visualizing a god. Fantastic. He came home. He told his family, his wife, see, tomorrow morning onwards I'm going to do this meditation. So next day morning he sat for the meditation. He closed his eyes. He was sitting in meditation. He was trying to visualize God. But there was a lot of noise coming from the kitchen because his wife she has got her daily morning course to be completed. So she is going along with that, and the noises of the vessels moving here, there, all those things are happening. And the TVs were on with the Suprabhat and other things, the neighbors. So that noise is also coming. My friend was quite upset. Are, what is this here with so much of noise? How can I concentrate on meditation? So he decided he will go to a secluded place for meditation. So he chose a forest nearby. He said, I will go there and meditate. So he went there, he chose a nice place there, he sat. Now he thought there will be no noise, nothing. No disturbance, distraction. He sat and is about to close his eyes. A beautiful young girl just passing him, walking and passing him. A wonderful, beautiful girl. The moment he saw her, he got disturbed mentally. Oh, what a beautiful girl. How he decided, wow, if my eyes are open, I'll see this girl tomorrow also. So tomorrow I'll come prepared with a blindfold. I'll blindfold my eyes so that I don't see her. So next day he came prepared with a blindfold, and he blindfolded himself, sat there before that girl came. So he is happy. Wow, before the girl came, I am blindfolded. Now I cannot see her, so I will not be distracted. But what happened is, she is wearing that anklets, and the sound from the anklet was coming jal 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 as she walked. Oh, he thought, this girl is passing. Again the girl thought of the girl coming. So he decided, next day I will get some earplugs so that I can plug my ears and I will not hear the sound of the anklets. So I can stop that. So the next day he came with that, a blindfold as well as the earplugs. So he sat well before she could pass that side, and he blindfolded himself and applied that earplugs on his, placed the earplugs on his ears. Now he is well settled for the meditation, and the girl passed. Now she was having this jasmine flower in her head, tied there. The fragrance of the jasmine flower disturbed him. Now he thought, that girl is passing now. And then he said, oh my God, what is this happening? Not to see her, I use my blindfold. To not to hear the noise of her anklets, I use the earplugs. So tomorrow I will come with another cloth where I will tie my nose also. I will close my nose with the cloth so that I will not get that fragrance. I will not smell the fragrance of the jasmine. So I will be totally free from that girl. Thoughts of her girl. So the next day he came with another piece of cloth. He blindfolded himself. He covered his nose with the cloth and plugged his ears, and he sat. And he sat, so he didn't hear the sound of the anklets. He couldn't see her, and since his nose is also covered by the cloth, he couldn't smell the fragrance of the jasmine. But the mind was not keeping quiet. The mind was saying, oh, I think by now the girl would have passed. Now you are trying to work against the nature, my dear friend, and you are not working on the area which can be worked on. So the sensory objects are for that purpose, and that's the nature. But with whatever that happens with the sensory object, what is that you are going to do later is the area where you can work on. So that is where the attempt is required. So before acceptance, you make an attempt and see whether that can be changed. If still that cannot be changed, it is better to accept. In spite of all your attempts, if still your child is not going to score good marks, it is better you accept your child what it is, so that you are saving your child. You are saving your child. Moreover, you are also peace, you can behave very well with the child. Honestly, you have put your effort. You made attempt everything to see that it can be changed, but if still it doesn't work, as far as the employers are concerned, they are always having the choice to remove that guy with. After all the attempts, if it doesn't work, accept the situation. Okay, it is only this much. Now I have the choice whether to continue with him or remove him. But with the child, you don't have the choice. Right? You don't have the choice. That is not our dharma. So accept the child and see where the child can be best. If not studies, where else? What else? That's very, very important. So this attempt is important, and that is why God has given us the brain. The nature has given us a brain to think and work on if it can be changed. So that is what verse number 14 talks about anatma. That is human. So now coming to verse number 15, the one who is not worried, the one for whom joy and sorrow are same, who has no difference. For him, external factors doesn't cause any trouble. And why? What is the benefit of that? He is eligible for moksha. That is what verse number 15 says. He is eligible for moksha. The one who for whom joy and sorrow are same, has no difference. So how do I understand that there is, they are same? Now again, let me try to preempt, if at all you have this question, how can I put both in the same platform? Because when there is sorrow, I am suffering. When there is joy, it is pleasurable, I am enjoying. So how can the suffering and joyful enjoyment will be in the same platform, or can be kept same? One is pain and another is pleasure. Pain is never welcome, pleasure is always welcome. So how can I put it same? Now you have to understand, pain and pleasure are part of our life. That is the nature. Because why? The sense organs are in constant touch with the sense objects. So since that is a nature, you are going to be into pain and pleasure situation. It is inevitable. So now let us conclude, it is an inevitable situation. It is the nature. So sometimes I will be in sorrow, sometimes I will be in joy. And now what is that? Sorrow also comes and goes off. Joy also comes and goes off. Pain also comes and goes off. Pleasure also comes and goes off. Nothing is stable. So why should I hold on to one thing and try to reject another thing? Even if you try to hold the joyful situation, it's not going to be there forever. It's also one day going to vanish. So that is where you need to understand they are same. Both are impermanent. They are not permanent. So if you understand this factor, the one for whom joy and sorrow are same, for him external factors doesn't cause any trouble. It doesn't trouble him at all. Now imagine a situation, my dear friends. I want you people to imagine certain things. So let me prompt you for that. Imagine a situation where you are not troubled by anything. Wow, what a wonderful situation. I am not being troubled by anything. If my wife shouts at me, it's okay. If something goes wrong, it's okay. Someone pickpocketed my purse, it's okay. In the flood, something disaster happened, it's okay. I got a promotion with a double increment, it's okay. I have been sent to America on deputation with all the perks and extra monetary benefits. It's okay. Why? How long I am going to be there? I am going to come back. How long? If my pocket is pickpocketed, my purse is pickpocketed, now what can I do? It's happened. I kept it safe, but it happened. I know there is a loss of some money, credit card, etc., etc. But now let me contact the banks and let me see how I can deactivate my credit cards. Whatever the money is lost is lost. Why? This happens. It doesn't happen every day. It happened once. Yes or no? I got my promotion this year. It's not that every day I'm going to get a promotion. It's not that every day I'm going to get the increment. And once I got the promotion, now what happens? My responsibilities also goes up. The work pressure goes up. I need to do more. I'm responsible, answerable for more. So the joy, the day you got the news that you're being promoted and you got a double increment, it is wonderful. But once you took over the responsibility, then suddenly the joy is gone. You say, my God, it is better I would have been in my earlier position. I know many people, after taking the managerial post, they regret for that. The joy was there when the announcement came, when they got the letter, when seeing that, wow, you are a manager, wow, and the salary increment, wow. And after they started taking the responsibilities and started handling, they said, it is better I would have kept quiet with the earlier position. So everything is impermanent. If you can understand that. Now the beauty is that he is eligible for moksha. So one who has patience and the ability to accept, this person is eligible for moksha. Moksha is not something that you are going to get at your death or after your death. It is something that you are going to experience while you are alive. And it is something that need to be experienced while you are alive. That's called moksha. We are going to see about this moksha much more. Liberation from all the clutches. Yes or no? If I am wearing a footwear which is 5 kgs weight, don't you think you will feel like removing that footwear? Or you would like to continue to wear that footwear and walk? You will definitely look into get rid of that footwear. All the bondings we are having are something like the footwear which is 5 kgs of weight. It is obstructing your progress. It is obstructing your movement. Not only it is obstructing, it is causing lot of inconvenience and pain. So what you tend to do, you see the best way to remove that footwear. Once you have removed that footwear, what a relief. Now here, removing the clutches. You are not removing the foot. The foot is going to be there. It's only the footwear. So footwear I refer to here as the bonding. It's only the bonding that I am removing. I am not removing the rest of the things. They are going to be there. I will be part of everything and nothing will be part of me. Nothing will become part of me. That's what we are saying. So my foot will be part of me, but the footwear will never be a part of me. So that is called moksha, getting liberation from all these clutches, the bindings that clutches you and destroys your freedom. Always puts you into worry, suffering. It's only the bonding. So getting relieved from these bonding, getting away from this bonding is what called moksha. We are going to understand this moksha in a much deeper way. I just gave you a very small introduction of moksha, a very simple definition, but that is not enough. I know you will have a lot of questions in your mind. Even Arjuna is having some questions on this. He will be asking on this. So let us wait for that to get more details on this. So in verse number 15, Lord Krishna says, the one for whom joy and sorrow are same, for him external factors doesn't cause any trouble. And the benefit is he is eligible for moksha. He is still not attained moksha, but he is eligible for moksha. That is a first standard student who got a pass card is eligible to go to second standard, but still not a second standard store. So, yes, eligible to get moksha. That we will see much more in depth after this. So these are the two important verses about Anatma we have talked. The objective of these two verses by Lord Krishna is that to preempt Arjuna's thought. If Arjuna is going to say, yes, I am worried about the death of the bodies or the extinction of the bodies of Bhishmacharya, Dronacharya and all the others, then Krishna says, they are temporary. They are going to perish. So their bodies are anyhow going to vanish. So why do you worry about it? That's the nature. Birth and death are nature. Even if you don't kill them, someone is going to kill or somehow they are going to die. When Krishna handles this point in ethical way, you will understand why Krishna is telling Arjuna to get into the war and kill them. Right now, don't get into your imagination. Wow, God is suggesting to kill Bhishmacharya and Dronacharya. How cruel! Is he a God? Hold on your thoughts. As we move further, we will understand much more why Krishna says this. So the rest we will see in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.